Here's another reason why you want to take control of what you're doing.
Everything kind of funnels into the only winning move is not to play the game.
I don't know, guys. This whole thing sounds pre-recorded.
So I struggled long and hard this week, not because we didn't have a guest to be on the show, because we have plenty of guests lined up, but what we were going to talk about, me and Ken, because I thought it was important that we talk about not only what happened last week, but what happened this week with the news cycle, the social media cycle, everybody's cycle that has been alive, has been affected somewhere along the way about the news of whether it be, Charlie Kirk, whether it be Donald Trump, or whether it be that guy up there, Jimmy Kimmel. And this is the reason why I named this show, Is This a Turning Point for America? And I thought about it long and hard about what I was going to say, because, right up here, Democrats and Republicans are way involved with this. And I thought over the whole week what I was going to say. If I was going to write it down like a speech, or whether I was just going to do it off the top of my head. But here's what I want to say. America's at a turning point. We are definitely at a turning point. We have to be at a turning point right now. We have to rein in the government overreach. We have to get back to a set of morals and values that are consistent with the population that we live with. We have to protect the rights that our Constitution protects us of. We have to make sure that these people right here, these two people right here, these two groups right here know exactly what we want and what we expect of them. And we've lost all of that. We've lost all of that because of what I believe is social media. What I believe is the degradation of a nation that once stood for morals and values. Charlie Kirk knew about morals and values, and he got killed for it. He got killed for opening up a dialogue with people and showing them the light. We have President Trump, on the other hand, who kind of wants to bully people. He wants to speak out to people. He wants to create executive orders. He wants to do this and that. And basically, he's a big troll. Did I vote for him? Yeah, I voted for him because I thought he was a better answer to our country than Kamala Harris. Mix Jimmy Kimmel in with everything that's gone on with him. And I'm sorry, Jimmy, you lost your job. You lost your job because you thought what you were saying was funny and clever and true. And unfortunately, it was a lie and it was propaganda. And your company didn't want to deal with it anymore. No matter how much you think that President Trump had something to do with it to the FCC, that is not true. Today, whatever I say on this show, whatever I've said on past shows, whatever I say on future shows, I can get fired for from my boss at my work. I'm willing to die on that hill. I don't care. I'm going to say what I want to say when I want to say it. Nobody has the boss over me, but I do work for a company that might take offense to something that I say. I'm willing to die on that hill. Jimmy Kimmel's not willing to die on that hill. He was ready to take it even farther. So was Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was wanting to take it farther. He was wanting to take his message farther. And so does Mr. Trump over here. He wants to take it farther also. And these people up here, they want to take it way farther. So, is America at a turning point? Are we going to take Charlie's message? Or are we going to take President Trump's message? Are we going to take the Democrats and the Republicans' message, or are we going to take Jimmy Kimmel's message? It remains to be seen. I didn't watch the memorial today, but I did watch clips. I was keeping tabs on what was said. I got some quotes that I will be referring to today. I've got some thoughts and reflections about what happened over the week. And basically, I've always been on the turning point. I'm always going to be that person to be able to point out what I think is right and what is wrong. Whatever anybody else thinks about what I think is right or wrong, that's irregardless. I don't care. You can't change my mind. You can't change my mind because I'm 65 years old. But there's young people out there, young people that attended the memorial today. That gives me hope that we're going to turn this country around. And it doesn't matter whether you think that the transgender issue or the freedom of speech issue or the race issue or whatever issue you think that Charlie Kirk was against, or President Trump, or even up there, Jimmy Kimmel, the man who created the Man Show, chicks on trampolines, wearing blackface, whatever the case may be. Doesn't matter. We let ourselves down this degradation road because that's what we craved. That's what we wanted. That's what we wanted to feel. That's what we wanted to see. That's what we condoned. No matter whether we went kicking or scratching because we didn't want it or whether we voted for it. It doesn't matter. It happened. So, like I said, is this America's turning point? Don't know. That's up to you. But I don't think that Charlie Kirk's message is going to die anytime soon. Trump, he's going to be gone in 3 years. Jimmy Kimmel, he'll land on his feet. The Democrat and Republican Party up there, who knows what's happening. But all I know is that we better freaking change our attitudes with everything that's going on in America right now. Because right now, it seems like we're doing this little spiral into the sewer. That's just the way I feel about it. And welcome to another episode of the Weather Report. Here's Ken. And Ken, like I said, I struggle with this today. I struggle with it all week. Of course, we do this show weekly, and it's surprising about what we see and what we talk about and what we hear and what we feel. And on the morning show, we really hang our asses out there, so to speak, to talk about these things. But we really don't do it here at the Weather Report because basically we're an entrepreneurial small business type thing. But sometimes you need to bring these things forward and bring these things out into the open to everybody in our audience. So that's the reason why I did this on the Weather Report today. And I want to feel your feelings about over the whole week, just not the Charlie Kirk thing, because we are going to talk about Charlie Kirk a lot. You watched the memorial but you also have been following what President Trump is doing. You already, followed what's going on with Jimmy Kimmel and also the Democrat and the Republican Party, because basically you've worked with the Republican Party. So let us know what your feelings are right now. How you doing? You are muted. Can't hear you.
How about an unmute? Consummate professionals here at the
we are consummate professionals
at the Weather Report. No, it's been a very reflective week for me. Charlie Kirk was somebody that I was aware of 10, 12 years ago when he first started going, as I was also doing political activism and things like that. He was one of the guys that was up and coming that everyone was talking about. And even though no one knew him, they're like, there's this turning point group. And boy, he's really got his thumb on the pulse of what needs to have happen here. And he seems to have no fear about it. And, what happened with him, there's something that I have to throw out there, and I'm really concentrating now as I'm saying this. I'm tired of people talking about Charlie Kirk as a MAGA conservative activist. He was not that at all. At all. He was a God first, trying to bring the gospel and the good news of Jesus and the things that you can do in your life if you accept God. And everything else was looked at through those glasses. And here's what's the great thing about it. I've watched a lot of, I've just been a rabbit hole every night of people just going, and it happened at work too. I had a couple people at work. They're like, "Oh, what happened? Who's this Charlie Kirk guy? Seems to be a big deal. Never heard of him," because a lot of people have never heard of him.
Right.
But what I said, go hear of him. Go Google Charlie Kirk, spend 1 hour, take 1 hour of your life and just go watch Charlie Kirk's videos and his discussions back and forth. And every person that I worked with that came back and did that, then the next day was like, wow, this guy was amazing. I'm like, and these are people from all different walks and in ideologies and stuff of life, but they're like, well, he really could have a good conversation. And he embodied what's missing in our discourse right now that we used to have, but we haven't had in a long, long time. I blame social media because, it's an easy thing to blame, but yes, that's what I blame. People forget in this world that we're living in right now. And this is where, you get the people that are celebrating his death and stuff like that. I don't necessarily blame them because they're living in a online bubble that just feeds them the stuff that they think they want to see, which is all of this kind of stuff. He was a hater. He's a racist. He's a misogynist. He's a, Islamophobe. He's all of these things that are horrible. Right. And, because those things are all horrible. But what's happened now is it's caused these people that like, well, I'm going to go look at what he said because I'm going to show him, and they go watch what he said. They watch some of his speeches and they're like, whoa, hold up, something ain't right. That isn't what I'm seeing here. This is a different person. So this is the awakening. My wife Stacy was really affected by this too. She was like, why would God take somebody like this? Why would God allow a person like this human being, young guy, beautiful family, upstanding in just about every kind of way. Why would he take him? And, over the last week, she's like, I see why he did it now, because it had to happen. He had to be the sacrifice to open people's eyes. This is a true martyr. In our lifetimes, Bruce, well, your lifetime, you being, way, way older than I am. I'm sure you remember, when FDR died, and that was a bad deal. But I kid. We haven't had, I was born in 1968. We've had, pivotal times, but the kind of assassination like the RFK, JFK, MLK, even Black Panthers leaders, and these big assassinations haven't happened in 60 years. And to have something like this happen, it was a shock. The one thing I will say too, and this is going to sound terrible, but with the poor Ukrainian girl in the subway and Charlie Kirk's thing, God put video cameras to show the brutality of this stuff for a reason. And I really think that those are in there because people haven't seen it. That stuff usually gets edited out. Oh, we can't see this. We can't see it. No, you need to see just how destructive that this evil is. So in the course of over the last week, watching people go back to the Bible, decide they're going to go to church, or maybe they're atheists and they're just like, you know what? I don't believe any of your guys' crap, but he seemed like an honest, good guy that really wanted to have a conversation, and I can work with that. And they go and start to look at what he does, and then this is a turning point. And the turning point. That phrase is going to be such a cliche now, but it's so true. I mean, he really named his group well. Something like it's like 28,000 new charters have been asked, have been requested to start. Can you imagine if 28,000 God-fearing kids start groups like this, what that means for our country. So as you started this in your monologue, which I thought was wonderful, by the way, it was a little dark, rightfully so, but I don't see it that way. I see it. This is a brightness. One of the things that Charlie was for, that I've been saying for years and years and years, and I live it, so I don't just say it, I lived it, is reinstating the family. You reinstate the family as the number one priority, that the husband is the person that is going to go out there and provide and protect, and the wife is the person that maybe provides as well, but also nurtures, and that combination of those things, if we can focus on that in our country, the rest of the problems will handle themselves. Because, going through this, if you've got good family people, and you don't have to be rich, you don't have to, I mean, I came from a very well-off family. When I got out of school, I'm on my own. I struggled like crazy for 10 or 15 years. There was a safety net. I never had to worry about being homeless. So I'll say that out there, but I struggled. I mean, there was years I made $8,000 or $9,000 in the entire year in the 90s. This isn't like, this isn't like ancient times. You learn and grow and become stronger through these things. I had a kid out of wedlock. When I found out my wife was pregnant, the first thing I wanted her to do was have an abortion. I mean, I was that freaking guy. And had she listened to me, I wouldn't have this beautiful daughter. We wouldn't be married with now a son as well.
Right.
And now I have a grandchild because my wife had the fortitude to say, no, that's wrong. And as soon as that phrase uttered and exited my mouth, and I wasn't religious back then at all, I felt the hand of God slapping me across the face, saying, how dare you, think such a thing. So I've lived this. I've been on the other side. My wife was on welfare, but it was well before we were married. You can do it. And the idea that make family priority number one, put God first before everything else. And I'm not saying religion. I'm not saying church. I'm not saying, Aaron, who's going to join us here in a minute, talked about this on on our morning show the other day. And the way he explained his spirituality literally choked me up. It's happening again. He's like, I'm not buying all the bullshit with the church and all this stuff like that, but there's something out there. There's something spiritual that's driving all this. None of us know exactly what it is. I believe in Christ. I believe in all that. If someone doesn't, I don't look down on them for that. I don't.
No.
But this is where Charlie Kirk came to all of us to argue his beliefs through a language of peace. Now, we also need pit bulls, and we need people that are going to come out there and just raise hell,
right,
and kick down doors, and kick ass and take names. And that of course, Aaron, our friend Aaron from I Had to Say It podcast, is one of those guys. And I'm glad to know him.
Yeah, before we bring Aaron on, I just wanted to interject something here, is that a lot of the accusations that have been going around in social media by those left people or progressive people or even Republicans who think that Charlie Kirk was a bad guy, that he was a racist, that he was a homophobe, that he was a this and a that, I challenge you to go out there and listen in context. Context, guys. In context, exactly what Charlie Kirk has said. Has he said some things that are controversial on his show? Yeah. I'm a God-fearing man. I'm a Christian man, just as much as Charlie Kirk is. He doesn't have any more faith than I do. I don't have any more faith than you have, Ken, and I'm sure I don't have any more faith than Aaron does. But the fact of the matter is that we all falter every day. By the time I put my shoes on and put my feet on the ground, I've already failed. But thank God that I've got, my faith behind me, that I know that, whatever I do, I lean on God most of the time. Does that mean God does everything for me? No. Does it mean that God was going to protect Charlie from that bullet? No. I struggle with these people, and I get so pissed off when I see all this rhetoric come by, because all it does is the division gets wider, and Charlie Kirk wanted the division to get slimmer. That's all Charlie wanted, and that's what he was killed for. So at this point in time, I want to invite Aaron onto the stage. Aaron from the I Had to Say podcast. How you doing, buddy? How's it going?
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man.
Gentlemen, you use that term loosely.
Very loosely. But if you guys are going to say nice things about me, the least I can do is lie on your behalf. So
That's why we pay you the big bucks to come on.
That's right. That's right.
I'm
Your
getting
check's in
paid
the
for
mail.
this.
Your check's in the mail. What do you got to say, Aaron? I mean, we've been through this whole week. You've been on the morning show sporadically lately because you've had some other things going on, but I'm sure you've got a lot to say.
I do. And just as a courtesy here, tell me if this works.
That does work.
Okay, good.
You
See,
did use that.
I wanted to make sure I could take care. I don't want to. I know you guys try to keep the weathered report more, more friendly than I am inclined to be. And as much as I generally refuse to self-censor just on general principle, out of courtesy, I wanted to be ready just in case.
Yeah, just in case kids are. There might be some kids listening.
Yeah. No, actually, believe it or not, contrary to popular opinion, I can communicate without using obscenity. So I'm going to do my best.
I can't.
And I'm going to try not to get too worked up. I do appreciate, Ken's kind words earlier saying he appreciates my outlook on life, because that's all I got, really. I mean, that is the way I feel. It's not, I don't necessarily do anything with the intent of worrying about somebody else's issues or concerns, or there's so many lies in that sentence. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we've talked about the matter and saying things about, again, Charlie Kirk and his unfortunate, assassination. It is what it is. He was murdered for political motivation, and the divisiveness that it's kind of like you said, Bruce, literally everything that I have seen out there from any person trying to push what a rat bastard he really was and how he deserved this just absolutely horrific thing to be done to him is always taken out of context. It's always taking a 30-second soundbite of him saying something that objectively from a 30-second soundbite sounds kind of horrific in a lot of ways. And maybe I have a little more empathy because I say a lot of things that when you take them out of context are kind of horrific. But on the other hand, a lot of the things I say when taken in context are also horrific, because I'm okay saying horrible things because sometimes they need to be said. Sometimes the only accurate way to present a situation is to rip the Band-Aid off, have it out there raw and bleeding so you can see the absolute just disgusting situation that is in front of you. And there are times when you're doing yourself a disservice by mollycodding, sugarcoating, or trying to tone things down. Sometimes you need that harsh reality. And at the end of the day, that's why I am the way I am. It's like you said, sometimes you need the pit bull. Sometimes you need somebody that's going to go after the jugular, somebody that's going to just lay it out there, somebody that's not going to take any prisoners and not try to make any friends and not try to spare any feelings. And I'll be the first to admit, yeah, that's me all day. I spend a lot of time trying to be diplomatic. I spend a lot of time still being diplomatic, as much as nobody may believe that's listening to more than 3 seconds of my show. Because I do swing that battle axe of, you know what, this is the truth. This is how, when I'm not talking about subjective things, when I'm saying things that are, this is a fact, it's irrelevant how you feel about it. I walk around swinging that attitude, and going back to the early days of when I was first starting this podcast, and in the early days, like some of my kids' friends would occasionally listen to my episodes and be like, man, Pops, you can't say that stuff. You're going to get canceled. I don't care. At the end of the day, like I said, I'm not trying to spare anybody's feelings. I'm not trying to make anybody feel better about a situation that they have no business feeling okay about. You need that uncomfortable truth. Charlie was much more civil, much more inclined to say, okay, well, present your counterpoint to try and prove me wrong. And as often as not, he would get the people who were sitting there trying to tell him what a piece of crap he was to be like, oh, we are on the same page. We're just not seeing things the same way. Primarily,
I call it being on the same bus, going to the same place, but we're on different roads.
yeah, I mean, you can't be on the same bus on different roads, though, Bruce.
Well, I
You can
mean,
be in-
excuse me, different buses on a different road going to the same place. Excuse me.
I have a feeling we're all riding the same bus to the same place, and it's going to be really warm when we get there. But I already worked out a deal where I get a pitcher of water, so it's okay.
And I'm over here in a ferry boat going, where is everybody?
Like, yeah. So
Aaron, this is the beauty of it. There's times where I'm the pit bull. There's times where I'm the voice of reason. In my political activism, there was a time where we were at a fundraiser, and it was a Ted Cruz thing. This was back in 2016, 2015, and his dad, Raul Cruz, who is an amazing human being. So if you can hate Ted Cruz, but look up his dad and what he's done. He escaped Cuba in the late 50s, early 60s. This story's incredible. We had dinner with him, and what an absolutely amazing guy. But anyway, we're at this thing, and we're in discussion. And one of the guys that was in my in our Senate district, on the executive committee with me for the Republican Party of Minnesota at the time, was a bulldog. He was a pit bull, and no filter. He reminded me very much of you and what you did, and he was very, very useful. Effective, great. But there was times where you needed to stand next to him, let him scream at somebody, so you can be the person. This is what I would do. Him and we would do this regularly. He'd scream at the guy, and then I would come out as the voice of reason, saying exactly the same thing as he just said, but in a different way. So what happened is, just to avoid the pit bull, he would talk to me or one of the other reasonable people that was also saying the same thing, with this room full of people behind him saying, we're going to make sure you don't get elected if you don't listen to us. Both sides of that coin are required. And
good cop, chemically imbalanced cop. It's a fun show.
Right. And the good cop's usually the bulldog, and the chemically imbalanced one's is the mellow guy. Because we go home and drink ourselves and cry ourselves to sleep for not saying what we really felt. But that being said, the Band-Aid has been ripped off. Your show is a perfect example of it. Same as the Boomer Bunker with Duchess, who's in our comments right now. We can talk freely about this stuff where we wouldn't have been able to do this before. We really wouldn't have. This would have been canceled in 2020, completely out, done.
Absolutely.
And this is when a lot of us got started.
I was gonna say, for frame of reference, I actually launched the show in 2020. So
exactly.
Yeah.
You missed the Inquisition. Well, let's turn this around though. But I mean, so we're talking about Charlie Kirk, and that's all fine and dandy. He had his memorial today. It was sad. It was inspirational. It was a lot of different things. A lot of people probably came to Christ today. A lot of people probably sat back and really listened to Charlie's message. A lot of people probably are at a turning point. But this guy over here on my left-hand shoulder over there, President Trump, has had a lot to say. Now, Ken had a different idea about what went on today with President Trump and how he felt about what he saw at the memorial. But we all have a different idea of what we think of Trump and his so-called, I don't want to say bullying, but just his trolling of the way that he does to his opponents over the last week, including Jimmy Kimmel up there. That's up there in the upper left-hand corner. So what are your thoughts about what Trump has been doing lately and how he kind of rounds out? And I'm going to go over to Ken too and let Ken start, because he's got a comment that he said to me pre-show that he wants to share with everybody. So go ahead.
Yeah, Trump, I watched, I didn't watch the whole 4-hour deal today. I watched a good amount of Erica Kirk's message, which literally brought me to tears. This woman is as strong as a human being. She's going to be our first female president, hopefully. Really got a good head on our shoulders. But and her speech, go and watch it. Just go and watch it. You want to be inspired by something? I've got very liberal friends that watch that and were also in tears because of just how strong she was. But Trump came out, and when a president's going to speak at anything like this, it's going to get political. End of story. There's no other way about it. They can't help themselves. And of course, Trump is no different. But that being said, the political rhetoric was kept to what I would call a minimum from what I saw. And from what I know of Trump and Charlie Kirk, they were friends. He considered Charlie like a son. And Trump's son considered him a brother, and it has said that over and over again, well before he was shot. These people knew each other. So yeah, his speech was it was a speech. It was what you expect. It was very Trump-esque. And he started getting to politics. And I remember when he came on, I told my wife, I'm like, Donald, don't F this up. Just please don't screw this up. And I had very low expectations, but I thought it wasn't
an executive order today, and I'm going to sign it. And
yeah, these terrible people, they were awful. And but no, he I thought it was heartfelt. I thought he did a relatively good job at it. And I'm pretty critical of him with this kind of crap, but he was humble about the effect that Charlie had in getting him elected, and the effect that he was kind of intimated that there's things that he could never do that Charlie could do and did. And then you could see at the end where he called Charlie's wife back out there, and you can't fake body language. And if you watch these were two people in deep, deep mourning. Bruce, you and I have both lost parents in the last couple of years.
Mm.
There's the relatives that show up that haven't talked to you in 40 years. And they're like, oh, we're really sorry, man. Thoughts and prayers to you. And it's just words. They really don't care. And then there's the people that you haven't seen in 30 years that feel genuinely terrible about not staying connected. And there's a difference in body language. If you watched Trump and Charlie's wife embrace and talk at the end there, you could see these were good friends. These weren't, it was more than just a political fodder there. On the dark side of things, if can Lee Greenwood please just sit down? I'm so sick of that song. Now, God bless him for being there. Thank you for giving it a shot, but you can't sing anymore, sir. And in my top 5 songs that I hate, number 1, of course, is "We Built This City," which is the worst song ever written. Number 2 is
Sure.
is Lee Greenwood's song. I can't stand it. And you're not going to get more patriotic than me. I bleed. I'm red, white, and blue. But God, I hate that song. Anyway, that's a little bit of a different vibe. But anyway, the sentiment from Trump, I thought today was needed. If you saw the crowd, at least go and look at the crowd of this people. They sold out a 70,000 seat arena, and then a 20,000 seat arena across the street. And then there was another 10 or 15,000 people standing outside. In Minnesota, I know I talked to a guy that was flying down to it, and he said, everybody on this plane is going to the Charlie Kirk thing. Everybody on the plane was going down there. So people are flying in from all over the country. I think this is a turning point. It is an awakening. My biggest fear is it's going to be politicized right out of any kind of usefulness.
Already has been.
No, it hasn't been yet. I disagree with you there. I think right now we're still in the people are just finding out. They're going to see what he had to say. I think within the next 6 months, we'll see what actually happens. I mean, it's going to be politicized.
I've already seen reports of this is just a great big political rally, and then we're going to stop off to Aaron here right now because it looks like his head wants to pop. So
hit it.
What do you say, Aaron? He's going.
Actually, no. That's just my head turning purple. Apparently,
yes.
That's actually, now that you pointed out, I can't unsee that. That's really bothering me. I better check my blood pressure. I've actually did not watch the majority of it. I saw some clips. I saw Erica's speech. I didn't really care to hear what Donald had to say. I said to myself, if he screws the pooch on this one, it's going to be everywhere. They're going to blast it out and as much as they possibly can. And if he does a good job, we'll be able to tell by the media's silence. So that was kind of I had a bunch of things I had to get done today, and regrettably, most of them didn't get done, not due to lack of trying, just due to lack of time.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we all have the same 24 hours a day. Some of us are productive with them, and some of them are me. So, it's, yeah.
Well, then on the flip side, what do you think about this whole First Amendment thing, FCC wise, this Jimmy Kimmel thing with Trump and all that? What do you think about that kind of angle? Steering away from Charlie Kirk and kind of putting the spotlight on Trump.
Well, kind of putting the spotlight on Trump. I honestly think, and I've been saying this since 2016 quite frequently, he needs to just know when to shut the hell up. Because at the end of the day, yes, Jimmy Kimmel said something that was reprehensible and protected under the First Amendment. And as I said the other day, the First Amendment does not guarantees you the right to say what you want to say without the government's intervention. What it does not prevent you to do is having consequences for saying asinine and distasteful things and having things happen like losing your job. Jimmy Kimmel after Colbert became the next big money sink in terms of leftist propaganda late night television, who I'm sure ABC was probably looking for an excuse to cut that red ink out of their budget, because his average viewership was under 130,000 viewers. Now, for a network television program, nowadays that may actually not be terrible, but when you stop and think about the fact, there are podcasts, and not even like in the Big 10 podcasts, like mid-tier podcasts that pull down more views than that per episode. I mean, there's a couple shows I follow that are not like, they're still kind of niche programs that are still hitting 250,000 views every time they drop a new episode, if not more.
So, well, Aaron, too, for some perspective, Johnny Carson on any given night had 20 million viewers.
Yeah. Now, like I say though, network television is kind of a dying medium, and
correct.
Somebody was saying on something I was watching earlier today that, well, Kimmel's going to be fine. He's going to go out and start a podcast, and he's still going to be okay. He's going to be okay because his current estimated net worth is like $50 million. He'd have to really just be the most brain dead yuts, because he's got more years behind him than he's got left in front of him. I guarantee that. And he'd have to be a complete idiot to piss through all that money in the amount of time he's got left. He may not leave much for his kids, but at the end of the day,
Well, in Kimmel too, I don't know if you guys saw Adam Carolla's answer today, because Adam Carolla and Kimmel.
I was wondering about what Adam Carolla was going to say. They've
stayed good friends for a long time, and there's a good part of what Kimmel does that on late night that's a bit. Listening to, because you're only hearing one side of the story with what's going on with Kimmel, and like on the Man Show, that was one of my favorite shows when I was on it.
No,
he was hilarious. Before that, he was on Ben Stein's Money. There was a game show called Ben Stein's Money, and he was hilarious. Kimmel is an incredibly talented guy that I think just the left got a hold of him, and the machine just took him and chewed him up and spit him out and said, "Here, do this," and he did.
Yeah,
to his demise.
He sold his soul.
And I think he can turn it around, and I think the way to do it, and honestly, if I was Jimmy Kimmel, I'd have come out immediately the day after and said, "Look, I'm a comedian. I say some stuff. I say some offensive things. Does sometimes it go a little bit too far? Well, of course, because if you're not pushing it, you're not being very good. Did this one go too far and offend some people? Yeah. And I was
too soon. It was too soon.
I was playing wrong about it, and I apologize for that. I was playing wrong. I made some assumptions and I made a joke. I think it was funny. It wasn't funny. and I want to move on, but that's, this is what he could have done that and been just fine. But like you said, his ratings were tanking. When Greg Gutfeld, who I enjoy his show, I like Greg Gutfeld. He's funny. But as far as the where the high bar is for late night television, the Jay Leno and David Letterman and Johnny Carson kind of level of stuff, none of these guys are even near it. And like Letterman or not, for 25 years the guy was amazing. So was Carson for 30, whatever it was, and Jay Leno did a great job too. But these people have now taken it and gone so one-sided with it and fucked it all up. And so this is where Jimmy Kimmel is. I'm with you, Bruce. I think they were just looking for a reason, and this was a perfect example of, let's do it now. This is the perfect. And from a corporate executive standpoint, it was stupid. They shouldn't have canceled him for that. They shouldn't have. They should have let him go, let the show die a slow death, because now Jimmy Kimmel's, he's the Charlie Kirk of the left because he got canceled, and everyone's like, well, let's see. The guy said some things and lost his career. This guy said some things and lost his life. Well, where's the greater good? Well, it's at neither place. So I'm not for getting him canceled. I wish he was still in the air.
Here's my take on it. So I had a comment out to a friend of mine who has been blaming Trump for everything under the sun. It's a great big progressive Democrat lefty type thing to do right now. Anything that happens in the world.
Have you referred said friend to I had to say it?
No. We're going to get back to you because we're going to get back to you here soon, Aaron. But everything's Trump's fault. Everything is Trump's fault. Doesn't matter. But the fact of the matter is this: ABC, Sinclair, and Disney, they have boards of directors, and these decisions don't come from the boss. The decisions come from the board of directors who say, "Hey, look, we're subsidizing this guy because X amount of people listen to or watch his show every day." But here's the fact: we're losing money. So what do? We can't let the 50% of our people that watch either Jimmy Kimmel or watch our network be able to be, disenfranchised because of what this idiot said. Granted, Jimmy Kimmel's a funny guy. Every once in a while, he's fine. But the thing is that the board's going to go with the stockholders. The stockholders don't want to lose money. The stockholders want to gain money. That's why we play the stock market. That's why we have investments. So the board did what they did. It came down from the board. The board decided that Jimmy Kimmel was expendable, just like Roseanne Barr, just like Gina Carano, just like anybody else who said something out of line at the time that was considered not good.
Let's look at someone on the right. Tucker Carlson, right?
Yeah.
Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly was running a town on a rail.
Yeah.
And the really good looking blonde girl that we always like now because she swears. They're more popular now than they ever have been.
Yes.
What I'm hoping is Kimmel is taking some time to reflect on what his next move needs to be, because he does have a podium. He does have a place to speak. He can be divisive or he can be inclusive.
Right.
And I'm hoping that he looks at what Charlie Kirk was doing and said, you know what? Because Kimmel has the character, he has the skills to do something similar to what Charlie Kirk does, but on the left side, and say, let's have the conversation. I believe these things. You believe those things. Let's have the conversation. I really believe he has that. Whether he'll be able to get past his own ego and do that, I'm very doubtful about. But again, this is an opportunity for him to turn this around. When you looked at what Tucker Carlson did, I was never a huge fan of Tucker Carlson. I'm still not a huge fan of Tucker Carlson, but from a business standpoint and what he's trying to do, I'm a huge fan, because he's really he's been able to take something that was horrible and just turn it around. I haven't seen anyone on the left be able to do that. Alec Baldwin tried to have a podcast. It failed miserably. Al Franken, it failed miserably. They tried to start a whole network of these. They were terrible because these people they can't attract folks to actually have a conversation and be interested in what they have to say, because what they have to say is just garbage.
Yep. Aaron, I'm going to set you loose on this topic and also start the conversation as we go around the horn of this little thumbnail I got to the Democrats and Republicans, because I know, as all of us here, we have different opinions, but we have kind of the same attitude about what we think about political parties. Aaron, take it away.
Well, where to start? I do want to add something to what Ken said about Kimmel and the left trying to enter that space. I have a theory as to why it doesn't work, and why the big names that are going to be trying. It's too severe of a rebrand is the thing. Because I mean, yes, there's ego involved. There's getting out of your own way and saying, look, if I need to grow and adapt, or I'm going to die. Growth is life. Stagnation is death. It's a natural principle. Howsoever, these guys, and it's, the Baldwins, the Frankens, the Kimmel, the Colbert, they're not going to be able to make that pivot, because their base will not accept open discourse and dialogue. It's a fundamental difference in belief. If they want to cater to their existing base, they need to be abrasive, aggressive, attacking any ideology that does not perfectly align with what the professed current standards are for that group. The problem being, you don't, like Ken said, you don't attract new people that way. You don't bring people into the fold by saying, you need to come on my show and echo exactly what my audience wants to hear, because my audience doesn't like debate unless I have gotcha moments, and you're not going to come on my show knowing you're walking into an ambush where I'm going to try and paint you to look like a jackass. So they're not going to be able to capitalize on this potential, because again, they've committed themselves to this base of people who don't appreciate discourse or development or coming to mutual understanding. They want to hear that they're right. They want to hear that their ideals are the facts, the truth, their beliefs, their feelings are what count. They don't want to hear other people's opinions. They want to hear other people being embarrassed, destroyed, mocked,
Correct.
brought down, and no one's going to walk into that. They're not going to get big name guests on their show that aren't already full on Kool-Aid drinking Hollywood elitists, that it's going to be parroting the same talking points over and over again. And they're going to be confined to their ever dwindling base, as the remaining people with a modicum of sanity on that side of the political spectrum are going, this is too much. I honestly believe that Charlie Kirk was a huge, Rubicon moment where enough people went, all right, I can't anymore. I agree with you about 80% of what you believe, but this is a bridge too far. This is a line in the sand I cannot ideologically cross. And if this is the way this party is going, I can no longer be a part of it. And one of the commentaries
to prove your point, Aaron, we have the way that the Democrats just will oust anybody. And I'm not even going to say Democrats, like the left, the radical left, how they will oust anybody that doesn't fall completely in line with them. Donald Trump is not a Republican.
Oh no,
he's a Kennedy Democrat through and through.
His entire cabinet is mid-90s Democrats.
Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, the Democrats ran her out of town on a rail because they were too stupid to realize that if you had run her against Donald Trump, we never would have had President Donald Trump.
No,
but they ran Hillary because she had the power and the influence. And I'm like, it's also the reason why, if you look at, like we talked about, the echo chamber, the people on the left don't want to hear the people on the right. And if you remember Herman Cain, rock me like a Herman Cain, I really liked him. I really liked him. And he would go on MSNBC and CNN regularly. He's like, I don't need to go on Fox News. Everyone on Fox News knows, they know me, they like me. That's fine. I'm going to go to these other places and talk about things. And they had to destroy him and make up a bunch of shit. The same with, Robert F. Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump. I mean, people like, oh, yeah, he donated to the Clinton. He was at freaking Chelsea Clinton's wedding, for crying out loud, as a guest of honor. He isn't a right wing. People forget. I was deeply involved in 2016 with the election, and I was a Rand Paul guy. So of course we lost, because that's usually what I do. Anyone I like loses. But the entirety of the Republican Party hated Donald Trump with everything in their beings, but they couldn't stop him because he was better than everyone else at media. He was just better. He was just better at it. And I would sit there and go, watch what he's doing, you guys. I don't want him either, but watch what he's doing. Do that. And they'd all sit back in their little conservative, like, no, we're going to be like this and the Constitution, this. I'm like, no one gives a shit about any of that stuff. What they care about is Donald Trump coming out and say, those people are doing this to you and I can stop them. Vote for me. And that's what everyone did.
This is a question before we close the show that I wanted to bring up to everybody. And it happens to do with the Democrats and Republicans. Now, there were Democrats in the audience today. I'm sure that there was dignitaries from Congress that were in the audience today. If not, spoke today. I'm not sure. I didn't watch the whole thing. But
Wasserman Schultz gave she was the opening act.
Yeah. But when Melissa Hartman, when Melissa Hartman was murdered, her and her husband, the Republicans unanimously voted to honor her. But the Democrats, there was 40 some odd Democrats that voted against honoring Charlie Kirk. In fact, during the session of Congress that they were in when Charlie Kirk was murdered, they did not want to have a moment of silence.
Bruce, I want to just correct the record there to make sure they did have a moment of silence.
Yes, they did.
The whole entire thing on a moment of silence. When Boebert said, "Hey, can we have a moment of prayer for Charlie Kirk?" That's when they said no, which to me is even worse.
Yeah. So
because I don't care if you're an atheist. I don't care.
Yeah.
The moment of someone just wants to have a prayer for somebody, give them the moment. It doesn't hurt anything.
Right. And the question is this: when is America going to wake up? When is America going to wake up? And I'm not saying to demonize the Democrats. I'm not saying to demonize the Republicans. But when is America going to wake up? When are the parties going to wake up and say, hey, we're fucking up? And you have your little beeper thing, dude, if you want to go ahead and do that. There you go. Too late. But when are we going to do that? So I'm going to go around one more time so we can kind of close this all up. And we'll go ahead and start with Aaron. And Aaron, thank you for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate your candor and your comments and stuff. But I'll leave it up to you first. And what are we going to do? Where are we going wrong here? And can we repair it? Yes, I know it hurts. Go ahead. We have all night. I know your head wants to pop.
It really contrary to the general portrayal I have, I'm fairly stoic. It's just I know nobody believes that, and no one that's even slightly familiar.
I mean, you're breathing today in between sentences, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, and I feel like this is one of those things. It's a reoccurring theme when I talk about pretty much anything involving the federal government. So for me, it's old hat. There's always, I come back to it because there might be somebody new. Somebody might be picking this up. There's probably some weathered report people out there who have either no idea who I am or have never had an inclination to go listen to me, despite all the very charitable things you guys have to say about me in general. I'm sure there are probably people out there who tune in like, hey, they're going to talk to somebody who's, got some really good business advice, or they're going to talk to these established political guys. Nobody goes, hey, I heard about this big bald guy. So, I'm going to recoach this. And like I said, for me, it's revisiting the same thing over and over and over again. But one of the most significant problems in our current political system, and this is non-party specific, this is across the board, particularly with the federal government, but even down to the local levels in a lot of cases, in a lot of ways. The way our system is set up, the way the establishment works, not only discourages younger people from being involved, but the geriatric walking corpse assholes that are at the reins right now have done everything in their power to ensure anybody that is of a younger mindset will bend the knee to the establishment. Our government has become so just bloated and out of touch and so just fat on their own excess that they have made it a position of the kind of mindset that is required to maintain this country, the idea, the experiment that is the United States, is extremely hazardous to anyone who currently finds their way into a way of power. So they do everything in that power to keep that mentality out of the halls. I mean, if you want to look at a good example, look at Thomas Massey. I mean, actively smeared by both sides. Every hardcore right wing, I hate to say MAGA people, because the concept behind MAGA of making America great sounds fantastic to me, but the people who have embraced that moniker, as soon as Massey says something they don't like, it's, oh, well, you might as well be a Democrat. He's like literally one of maybe three, and one of those three I'm not real sure on, principled individuals who stands on his principles regardless of what party's putting something stupid forth. And both sides demonize him for it. However, he keeps getting reelected. They've tried to primary him. They've tried to get him kicked out, and he keeps coming back because his constituents know he's going to stand on principle. And the rest of these idiots, whether it be the idiot voters who don't want to find their own version of that, of somebody who's going to say, here's my principles, here's where I stand, and everybody else can kiss my ass, or the parties who say, well, no, those principles are hazardous to our benefit, and if we let that spread, people will see that can happen and things could actually get done. So they're just not going to allow it, and it's an intentional. So it's a case of, I read a quote years and years ago that said, when politics and religion ride in the same cart, it's a dangerous force that's almost impossible to stop. But we're in a situation where politics is the religion, and that is an extremely hard situation to extricate yourself from. And I feel like they're so committed to maintaining that it's not something that will be resolved well or peacefully. I hate to say it. I don't like the concept. I don't like the idea of shit going really sideways and all of us having to suffer because of it. I'd love to see our culture and our society act like grown-ups for a change and do what is best for everybody, instead of letting a bunch of self-serving geriatric assholes push division and bring up and shape and coddle young motherfuckers that are going to... Ooh, I said a swear. I didn't mean to.
That's okay.
But yeah, when you get the squad, you've got your AOCs and your Jasmine Crockett and your what's his nuts that doesn't know the difference between a door handle and a fire alarm. And you've, yeah, and you got Timu Obama, and you got what's her name that looks like the Netflix version of Uncle Fester, because bald-headed black chick. Obviously that's how they're going to rewrite the story. I was shocked that Wednesday was as good as it was being on Netflix, which, side note, fantastic show. If you haven't watched it, I really enjoyed it. But anyway, so we have this little cadre of divisive young assholes that are basically sock puppets crammed onto the fist of the geriatric assholes that said, look, we'll bring you into the fold. We'll make sure you get your cake and you get to eat it too, as long as you maintain the horse shit that got us here in the first place. You want to keep the American people stupid and mad at each other, because if they're not mad at each other, they're going to realize they should be mad at us. And
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they found plenty of
Absolutely.
people that are willing to drink that Kool-Aid and say, you know what, you're
Yeah.
right. As long as I get mine, everybody else can burn.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
Ken?
Sorry.
You know,
What was the question again?
No, you
The-
answered it. You answered it perfectly. Ken, go ahead and round this up and let me know your what you.
yeah, the thing is you're right. It's you got to keep people apart. And if you read any kind of political activism, this is what they do is you have to separate, you have to divide and conquer is what you do. You get people fighting each other, then you can get in with the bigger group, and then that group, this is why you don't want democracy. We're not in a democracy. Stop saying it's a democracy. It drives me crazy, because democracy just means if you're a minority, you're getting railroaded because the majority is going to do what they want. What happens with this Charlie Kirk thing, to bring it all the way back around, is people that are Democrats, and I'm not talking your far leftists, I'm just talking regular people. We all have good friends that are they're good friends. They're people that we know, love, and trust. That we take care of each other's kids. You need someone to take the dog for the weekend, we'll take the dog. Good people. These aren't radicals. When these people see what's happening in their little world that they've been in, they're seeing the Charlie Kirk of, he says he doesn't believe in empathy and that gay people are against God, and that they've only seen these two things. Well, now they're looking and they're going and watching his stuff and like, well, hold on, wait a minute. This is not what he was saying. This was all out of context. Now they're starting to learn it. This is the turning point, because in prior times you could just say stuff, and this is what the old guard is doing. The Nancy Pelosi's and the Mitch McConnells of the world are saying, well, look at this person said this. Well, now you can go back and see it, because you couldn't before you just was like, oh, they said that, well, that's bad. Now you can go back and watch and go, well, that's not actually what he was saying, and you took it completely out of context. Obviously you're the bad person. It is going to bring people around. And will it make huge difference? It could. It very well could, because you've got the middle of the road Democrats. Think of Fetterman, who, this guy has absolutely blown my mind. I thought he was the biggest pile of worthless garbage.
Thought he was a moron.
And he's turned out to be more reasonable than any of the other Democrats in the whole of
and a lot of Republicans and a lot
of Republicans. I still don't agree with him on a lot of stuff, but
Right.
he's at least intellectually honest and saying, hey, hold on, you guys, this was a screwed up deal that just happened, and you've got to admit that. So I guess in closing, I would say that this overall atrocity, it's not a tragedy. A tragedy is if he had left that day and got in his car on the way back to the hotel in a tour bus broadsided him and killed him, that's tragedy. This was an atrocity. This was something that someone did.
Yeah.
But I think that I honestly believe this as a believer of God. Everyone has their time. That's why when planes crash, one person will live. It's like, no, he just put everyone else in that plane. It was their time that day, except for that guy. And he walked out. It's just like, no, there was a time and a reason that he did what he did. And seeing what the entirety of the internet did today, with this celebration of his life, really uplifted me. I'm hoping and praying that we can keep this positive discussion going, because like I've said many times, just because someone's on the other side of the aisle doesn't mean they don't have a good idea. They might have a good idea that you're never going to see if you just look at them as the enemy. So with that, I say keep the world of discussion open.
So before I close the show, first of all, I want to thank Aaron for being on here. You can check him out on the I Had to Say It podcast. There's his logo right there. If you go look for that logo right there on your favorite podcast app, you will be directed towards the I Had to Say It podcast, and it is a weekly episodic podcast, and he also does some long form interviews and stuff like that. Go ahead, Ken.
Can you bring up his logo one more time? As long as you get it handled. And this is just me being an artist guy. Might I add, the backlighted reflected blue light that's coming off of the bar. There's a bar because you're standing there, and I can see the blue light coming from the backside. That backlit on the microphone is spectacular. Anyway, I digress.
But again, Aaron, thank you for being on here. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. I
I'd love to have
appreciate
you back
the invite.
whenever you want to come on. You just kind of push your way into here, and we'll have you on here, no problem. I want to leave you guys with a couple of quotes that I gleaned from today's memorial. Erica Kirk, she said of Charlie, "We have an incomplete work, but unfinished business," which is profound, only because of the fact that the work's always going to be incomplete. It's destined to be that way. There's always work to do. And we have unfinished business that we have to take care of. There's a lot of unfinished business in this world that needs to be taken care of. In fact, Erica Kirk went so far as to say that she forgives Tyler Robinson. Her husband, Charlie, said wanted to save young men, just like the one who took his life. And that young man on the cross, our Savior, said, "Father, forgive him, for they not know what they do." Great piece of scripture. J.D. Vance said, "For Charlie, we will rebuild this United States of America to greatness. For Charlie, we will never shrink. We will never cower. And we will never falter, even when staring down the barrel of a gun." Some profound things said today, whether you agree with them or not, whether you agree with what Charlie had to say, whether you agree with everything Trump wants to do, whether you disagree or agree with how Jimmy Kimmel was handled, whether you agree or disagree the direction of the two parties that we are forced to vote for every 4 years, every 2 years, every year, whatever the case may be. We got to come to a turning point. Is this America's turning point? I believe it is. I believe it's going to be, and I believe forever that we're going to be at a turning point. But we have to turn the corner. Guys, thanks for being here. We'll be back next week. As a matter of fact, I wanted to say this about the upcoming shows. We're going to be doing some shows on personal protection, and we have a couple of guests lined up. One of them being I think it's F3 Defense, who's going to come on, and I think at this time in America that we have to prepare ourselves for whatever the case may be. Protests in the street, personal protection, whether you're in a place where you can have guns and openly carry, or places like California where I can have a gun but I can't carry because I don't have a carry. But there's also other means and other non-lethal means and other means to protect yourself while you're out there. So the next couple of episodes, we're going to have a personal protection type of thing going on. These people all have small businesses and things like that. And that's what we're going to be doing for the next couple of weeks. But just giving you a caveat on what's going on. Go to weathersoul.com if you want to sign up for the newsletter. We have a morning show every morning on X. It's the best morning show on X, The Weathered View, where you can hear Aaron, you can hear Ken, you can hear Duchess and Jamingo, Cody, Lorenzo, and a couple of other cast of characters that we have on there that get together every morning. We're a little bit more raw than what you see here on the Weather Review, but if you're listening, you're willing to come in, all you got to follow me is that also known as TWS over there, or follow Ken or follow Aaron. They're all on X, and you can come and you can
don't
join the
recommend
show.
following Aaron. It's a bad follow.
But we welcome you every day for our daily podcast. But we're going to be back next week with another edition of the Weather Report. And I want to thank you guys for being here, and we will see you next week. We're wrapping it up.